Hello, so today we're doing some Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and we'll be pulling some information out of the DM's guide, and I thought I'd just do a quick run through on something that a few people have asked for, and as everything would suggest, we're going to be looking at the very classic way of, if I can do this smoothly, oh I don't, but anyway, random dungeon generators. Yeah baby. So this is pretty groovy, and we'll be looking at some of this a bit more closely. So the random dungeon generator is quite cool for making up something fresh when you just want to throw something down that you don't want to put a lot of brain space into. If you want to just see how a random dungeon works, or if you want to do a little bit of solo play, and that's something that's useful as well, just to be able to get yourself familiar with the rules and familiar with how to do something, what players would do and wouldn't do. What better way of doing it than running through something that that's pretty fresh. So the way that Gygax envisages it is that you basically do this when you've run out of ideas. It's a great way of starting something. It's something that writers have always done, where you just start from a set text at the beginning of the paragraph and the page and then continue writing. He's the same sort of thing. You just start with this and then inspiration will take you from there. What he does suggest is that it always starts with stairs leading down, always starts in a room, and when you draw it out, you're in the middle of a page. And then from there, however you want to go. Alternatively, you've got this, where you can pick one of those. So basically, how you start is entirely up to you, but we'll open up with something. I'll introduce the characters. Some of them we've met in the past, and we'll see what we need to do to keep going. So I've just got miniatures just to represent, not so much to actually be them as such, but it's a human, an elf and a dwarf walk into a bar, and they're looking for some fun. So we've got Switch that we made a long time ago. So she's a magic user thief. These are all first levels, so none of them are expecting to survive. Patricus, who's essentially Switch's guardian, a lawful good fighter. And then we got Bolrimi, who's the fighter thief that we made a long time ago. And we've got all their stats, we've got everything laid out, their equipment and so on. So we've got all of their character sheets, and we're good to go. So just a quick run through Switch. So she's not overly strong. Everything she does is she's basically a thief that does magic, not so much a magic user thief as, you know, it's from the way that you would think of a magic user. So basically the party consists of 2 thieves, part-time magic user, and a fighter. Patricus, chain shield, sort of like an almost paladin, but not quite. And then we've got Bolrimi, one of our earliest characters, leather armor and so on. Today being played by Gimli. Patrick is being played by Elendil. And we've got Arwen, if I can focus, for Switch. Alright, so they're the players. Let's have a look at what we're going to be using. Obviously for a self-adventure you don't need to have this, but if something comes up I might want to break out a tactical map. That might just be mostly for showing on the video, but we'll do this. That's what this is for, but you don't normally need that. you can just work it all out off your graph paper and so on. Of course we need the mighty graph paper and pencil. As you can see, what we would normally do obviously is left edge binding, etc, etc, etc. However, the way everything is written, that's how you want to do it. So we will be starting in the middle of the page and we'll be working it out from there. Of course, rolling dice, pencils, razors if necessary for the tactical map, and we're good to go. So what we will be starting with is exactly how he suggests, just stairs leading down and then going into a room. What he does also recommend in here is that basically to introduce this to the bunch of characters, there are ruins or something, and in the middle of those ruins are stairs leading down. Yeah. But that's why we're here, because we've run out of ideas and we just need something to fire up some synapse. Alright, so let's start. Starting in the middle of the page, we come to the room section, which is table 5, and we roll our d20. 7, which says for a room, square 40 by 40. So we need to work out the shape, the size, exits, then its contents, treasure, and what else is in there. So shape and size, it's a square 40 by 40. The number of exits, roll a 12. I have one exit. Location. Same wall. So I've started to draw that up. So they've come through here, it's on the same wall. Now where you want it to be, left and right, you can just pick however you want. And or roll a 1 to 2, 3 to 4, you know, like, well, something. So since we're doing a random dungeon, so that's on the right hand side. And then we've got the chamber contents, room or chamber contents. 12. And it's empty. So we're coming up to the door. Well, what else is in there that's empty? So they've come down, they've entered into this empty room. And if you wished, you could do some ambience from one of the other charts back here, where we've got, you know, broken furniture and things like that, if you wanted to do that. But we're just keeping it exactly through here. Alright, so they come behind here and they've decided they're just going to open up that door. So we come over to the doors chart and now we look at what we need to be from here. 16. It's another room. Go to table 5. So from here we put another room. We go back to table 5. Rolling the d20. 15. It's a room, rectangle 20 by 40. So we'll just draw that up. How large are we? Or how many exits I should say? 3. We have 2 exits. Where are they located? First one is a 2, second one is a 13. Opposite wall and the right wall. So the opposite wall and the right wall. And the contents of this chamber. 3 being empty. Now we come, so this is how exciting it is, ladies and gentlemen. So when they walk in, they've now got a couple of options where they want to look. If they wanted to actually say, right, I'm checking for secret doors, there's actually another thing you can look at, whether it's a secret door. A secret door is a 1 to 5 on a d20. So first they have to roll to see whether they find something, and then they roll to see whether it's actually there. So for instance, if you've got the elfing the room in here, decides to check on this wall here, and doesn't do it, checks the next one, and we've got ourselves a 2. So then we'd make the check to see whether there is actually a secret door there, and no. Then they check over here, no, and so on. So you check, then you confirm that there is actually a secret door, because if they don't make their initial check, then what's the point? So, and then on a 1 to 5 on a d20, there's a secret door, and then you can just go through everything else on top of that. So what they want to do is crack open this door here. So we look at what's the space beyond the door. (16), and it's another room. Go to table 5, and it's an 11, which makes us a rectangle of 20 by 30. And the number of exits, D4, which is 3. So let's just draw that up. So the location of the exits, we need 3 doors. 19, which is the same wall, 3, opposite wall, and 7, which is also on the opposite wall. So with the same wall, we can make it adjacent. We don't have to try and bounce it back. We can just put it here and here, and then we've got opposite walls. So the contents of the room, 10, which is still empty. So basically they've gone through mapped, checked secret doors 3 times and mapped. So what we're looking at in terms of the length of time that they've been in the dungeon already is close to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, almost an hour they've spent crawling through and securing everything in here. So now what's the contents of the room? So with it being about an hour, it might be worthwhile doing a wandering monster check in a minute. So what we'll do is we'll check this door, and then we'll do a check for wandering monsters depending on what happens here, because they've been in there for a little while. So behind the contents of the door, we roll a 10, and a 10 is a passage. So the passage is 45 degrees behind and or ahead, whatever we need to do, but we're moving 45 degrees. So how long is the passage? And this is where we can start to sort of work out these things. So behind the door is the passage. And it leads to a four-way intersection. Sure, why not? So we'll just do a check for wandering monsters. 4, yeah, not good enough. Usually it's a 1 in 20. So this is our four-way intersection, so now they get to pick where they want to go. So they decide they're going to take the left passageway, and so now they need to work out how far that goes. So 11 meant that the passage T, so I just had to sort of figure out how I wanted that to look, so that's where it goes from there. And then they decide that they're going to turn right and head up this way. So now we roll again on our passage table. And we passage, and it ends in another. So now we're heading right again for another T-junction. Or what we might do is connect that up to here. Whoever designed this dungeon, they love their T-junctions. There better be something good in here somewhere. All this work they're doing. So they're heading up here, which is a 4. And that means that it turns right 90 degrees. That's a 20. We're Xing the passage. Okay. Let me see if I can draw that. So this is what we're looking like. We did say random dungeon. Alright, let's do a wandering monster check. Yeah, alright. That's going to be good enough. They're deep enough into the dungeon. We need to get some action. So we just have a look at our wandering monsters. It's a first level dungeon. So now we roll a d20. Which is 4, which means that it's an actual level 1 monster. And level 1 creatures. $63. Orcs. Dun, 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 dun. 7 to 12. So this is the area. My black pen fell out of it, ran out of ink. Anyway, so that's them approaching the intersection, And we have a wandering encounter with 7 to 12 orcs. And what I've got here is 7 orcs, led by the guy with the pick, for no other reason than just someone's got to. And then that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So when we roll, that's where it starts, and then daisy chains up from there. Let's get them on the board and figure out in what direction they're coming from. So, first of all, how many orcs? 8. 8 orcs. Now comes some of the ones we'll work out distance in a second. The first thing we need to sort out is whether there is surprise. As we're going through the general idea of what the Gygaxian turn-based everything looks like, determine surprise, determine distance, determine everything else, and then work out actions and so on. So, are we surprised? No one here has anything funky. They're all base 1 to 2s, which makes it a little bit easier. So, are the party surprised? No. Are the orcs surprised? No. So both sides are not surprised. So now we're looking at the distance. And the distance can be anywhere from within 50 feet up to 100 feet inside. Since that is limited by what our map looks like, based on these guys here, and every square is about 3 feet. So what we're going to have to look at is reducing that by a distance, and then work out which direction they're actually coming from. So what we will do is we will just adjust some of that. Instead of being 50 to 100, we might do D6 40 feet, which is fine. 40 feet, which is still a pretty reasonable distance, and then it's a matter of in which direction. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Working clockwise, 4 that's coming in from the back. So we're looking at 40 feet from this direction down here. So they've come into the room, and we're talking, it'll be about down here. So what we might do is just move everything up a little bit. I'll bring our 8, move them across, and that's our orcs versus our party. So yeah, so they would be about down here. Which is fine, because that's not where the action's going to be. Alright, so we're talking 40 feet, neither is surprised. And now it's actions. Are they going to run? Or are they going to think 8 orcs, we can take them? Well, let's assume that they think they're going to take them. You're going to set to receive the charge. Looking at what we've got as weapons, we've got 2 spears and a sling. So we're going to set to receive charges with the spears, and we're going to hurl a sling. We'll go a sling bullet. So that'll be roughly like that. Although they are considerable distance away, basically they're just hunkering down. Planting their spears in the way, because no one's going to be able to actually attack. They're just trying to form a defensible position. And we're off to the races when it comes to initiative. So party initiative 6, orc initiative 3. So yes, we get to do our things, which includes a sling stone against the orcs first of all, and then from there down here, likely to be out of range. We'll double check. Then the orcs will move up. It won't be a charge, it will just be using their movement to move forward and engage with our characters. And their response was to have the pointy things out on the off chance. So we fire off our bow first. Or our sling, I should say. Sling bullet, short range 50, which is well within space. The orcs have got a leather armor, and we're looking at +2 on the attack dice, on the quote to hit, with a rate of fire of 1. Switch, boom, sends out sling. So the orcs, we confirm with the orc to hit like their armor class, and based on their armor class she would normally need a 15, but in this case she's got +2. The stone, or the bullet assists and goes through the armor and hits the target that she's after. So basically what happened is that orcs have an armor class of 6, and looking at the chart, thief and magic user both require a 15 to hit an armor class 6. They run a slightly worse profile than the other classes. So that would have traditionally been a miss. She doesn't have a dexterity adjustment to bring it up, but the stone, the bullet gains a +2 versus the armor class base of the orcs, which bring it up to 16, so therefore becomes a successful strike. So the bullets having a little bit more oomph to them, they do a little bit more damage, and she does d4 +1 with her sling. So we'll roll up some damage. We'll work out the target and we'll roll up the damage. As firing is essentially a random effect anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 3 discernible ranks, and that's how we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll roll a d8 and we'll work out which one has been hit. She hit orc number 7. For a total of 3 damage. And what we'll do is we'll just confirm how many hit points orc number 7 has. And he has 4 hit points, so he's got 1 hit point left, and we'll just make a note of that. What's easier in these random scenarios is that when you roll for damage for the first time, that's when you might as well just work out the hit points, rather than working out the hit points for everything as you go, if you know what I mean. So it just speeds up the process a little bit, because if somebody comes in and does 8 points of damage, there's no point in rolling up hit points. They're dead, and so on. So alright, so that's he's got 4 hit points and she's done 3, so it's got number 7 has 1 point left. So what we'll do is we'll just need to mark that and we're good to go. So they've hunkered down. The next response is the 2 archers firing into here. So we'll resolve that. So the first orc rolls, 19 and a 4, 19 definitely hits. Now who does it hit? So starting with the front 2, so we've got, there's a human on 1 to 2, 3 to 4 for the dwarf, 5 to 6 for the elf. On the dwarf, and 4 points of damage. So Bolrimi takes 4 points of damage from that. She's down to half. The next archer, 20 and an 11. So the first one, the 20, so what we're going to do is we're going to just work out who they were against. This one first, again against Bolrimi, but this time Bolrimi manages. So what we need to look at, Bolrimi has an armor class of 8, which means that that's traditionally a hit, and she has leather armor, and they're using a short bow, so I'll just borrow it here, which is a +2, so it's definitely a hit. So they hit Bolrimi a second time, and on the 20, we've got the human. So versus Bolrimi for 4 points of damage, and she's unconscious. And against the human for 4 points of damage, and he's got 4 points left. Now the sticking around and fighting doesn't seem like a good idea. So in terms of logically moving forward, which is what we have to look at, the spears require the least amount of actual space required, so it makes sense that they come up first. The short sword and spear can go side by side. Then we have the short sword and the pick, because the pick requires a fair bit of swinging space. It can't be jammed up in here because it's not fully not able to actually extend itself. We'll figure out what we're doing in a moment. We've got initiative, and what we're down is 1 character. Bolrimi's at 0, so she's just unconscious at this stage. What an illustrious start, but this is what it's all about, people. And we'll roll initiative. The players have decided that they're going to engage the orcs, death or glory. And the orcs, well, they're orcs. Now we can do some swinging. So we'll roll up switch first. As we were talking about previously, she needs to get a 15 or higher, because we know what the armor class is. I mean, everyone knows what an armor class is, really, but if it was a regular player, it would just be, the DM would say use base AC 8 and then work it from there, in which she misses. Now we've got Patricus, the human fighter, who's coming in, and he's dropped his spear and drawn his sword and moved to engage with his longsword, and he misses. Now it's the orc's response. The orc archers are not firing, but the 2 spears at the front will have a crack, one on switch, missing, and the other on Patricus, and missing. So this is pretty much where it works. So now we roll for initiative again. We've got combat happening, party, and the orcs. Spear 1 against switch, yes. Spear 2 against Patricus. Patricus has chain and shield and armor class 4, which is a 0 modifier on the spear, but does not hit there, does not get through. That's a switch. And she takes 5 damage and she's at -1. Oh no, she's not, sorry. Oh yes, she is. She's at -1. She started with 4 hit points. So now, on his own, Patricus has to fend off the orcs, and he hits the orc with D8 and +1 for his strength for 2 points. Then we check to see what the hit points is of the orc. The orc has 7, so he's got 5 left. So after about an hour and a half of traveling through the dungeon, which looks like that, they're currently down here. They've come a cropper. Eight orcs versus 3 characters. The orcs were pretty much always going to have a bit of an advantage. This is how the game works. So what I might do is I might just finish it here, because he's got a decision he's going to have to make as to how he wants to do it. At the moment, it's going to be stuck with this type of train. They can't push forward because of how they move through. What they can do is, if with movement, during the movement phase, the orc can move around to try and flank, but not attack this round, but attack the next round. And the same thing with the other ones. They can move over and do that as well. Bringing this one up. But that, because it's over just that initial sort of amount of movement you can do, when you're here, for the most part, you can just move to engage. So if you've got, if you're a monk, you've got further distance, but for the most part, we're talking about within a 10 feet range, you're able to move and fight without a hassle. If you need to move beyond that, then you need to use your full movement, which means you can't attack. And if you've got space to move through, don't worry about miniatures. The DM will tell you whether or not you can shuffle through and move around. There's enough space there for an orc to be able to squeeze through, because these guys will be still inching and edging around. He'll be trying to keep the pipe clogged as best as possible. But yes. So, well, Patricus, left on his own. Can he do it? Is he capable of taking on the screaming hordes of orc? And what are they hiding? Were they just haplessly walking around and found the same dungeon? Or are they actually part of a larger contingent? Who knows? Who knows where this goes? Anyway, we might do one more round just because, why not? So we know what the orcs are going to do. They're just going to be running around. The 2 orcs at the front fighting, and then the other couple moving around. And I'm dropping dice because I can. Initiative for the party. Initiative. Right, so this is what I love. Simultaneous initiative. So simultaneous initiative, what we're looking at here is speed factor going first. So with that, you're looking at spears having a higher speed factor. They've got to withdraw it to jam it forward and everything else, so they make it up for and being able to put 2 or 3 side by side. But when it comes to the general speed to be able to generate the force, a little bit slower. They're a little slow. So the longsword goes first. So Patricus gets to have a crack. Well, actually we'll do the movement first because that's the order of initiative. So the 2 orcs that were going to run around, they do their running around. And then Patricus fights his 2 guys, well, one of the guys. 18, scores a hit. And we'll be using the one that he was fighting previously. and he does 3 more damage to him. So we know that the orc is down to 2 hit points. Now it's their turn back. Orc 1. Nope. Orc 2. Nope. So his armor holds. So basically, if you think about it, that the armor class is the armor defending itself, whether it's a shield. So if for the base armor class of the chainmail holds up, then the weapons are chinking off the shield or the armor, and if they miss completely, it's him dodging and parrying and so on. So you can visualize it how you want. That's one with 1 hit point, that's one with 2 hit points left. And they've moved around, so he's now got 2 guys on his flank. And the captain of the orcs urging them forward. There's only one. Keep moving, keep moving, keep pushing, pushing, pushing. And then it's initiative. 1 trapped party member. And the orcs. Okay, so now Batricus gets to have a crack. Now he's actually got 1 in the rear, 1 on a shield side, and he's got 2. So he's got a large shield. Nope, he's got a small shield. So in terms of where his armor class is able to defend him against, he's not going to be able to be successful against all of the attackers. So his attack, and it's a miss. He needs to go back to school. So we've got the first spear that he's fighting. Oops, sorry. First spear that he's fighting, which misses. The second spear also misses. Now we've got the 2 flanks, 1 rear and 1 flank without the shield, and the other one from the rear bonus and everything else. So flank and rear. So the rear attack manages to put a spear into his back for 4 points, which is enough to knock him out. So he's down to 0. So he's at 0, or Remy's at 0, and our switch is at -1. So the party have officially fallen. Are they captured? They can be. They can be certainly captured if you want them to be captured. Stripped of all their armor and weapons and everything else and just left to rot because they've done their bit, or are they actually dead? That's entirely within the hands of the DM in running the game. Maybe the next part is we got to get our kit back. Now you might be asking also, why didn't Switch cast a spell? Well, her spells don't really help her. Read magic, detect magic, friends, ventriloquism, and mending. Yep. If you remember, we rolled randomly. We didn't do the picking section. So these are the spells that she got. For a thief, they're not so bad. For a thief. But for a magic user, yeah, no. No. She needs to have sleep. Yes, that would have helped. That would have helped a lot. Alright, so that's the end of the adventure for these people. And that's what we got up to. Which is good, because now we've got to start, and if you wanted to expand on that, you could play with that a little bit more. So if you're short of an idea and you didn't know what you wanted to do, suddenly you've got something where you've got it all figured out a little bit more. Alright, well hopefully that's helped a bit. Might extend on this just because there's a lot to go through in that random adventure scenario. The difference between a room and a chamber, the difference sort of between the odd shapes and the encounters and so on. But anyway, so here we go. That was this particular adventure done and dusted. Welcome to AD&D First Edition, where you die All right, thanks guys. I appreciate everyone's patience. I know, I keep saying that every single episode, but it's a long time between drinks. I want to try and put out quality content, and I want to try and put out either questions that people ask or conversations that I'm having within the community, and this is where it often leads, and then it comes up as something to explore. So if you've got any other thoughts, what you used to do with it. I used to play with this a lot when I was just mucking around to work out how I wanted monsters to feel against a party. But it's a good way of running just a game on your own sometimes. Just roll out for half an hour and you're just sitting there rolling dice, cackling to yourself as you imagine what's happening. All right. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's time. Bye. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, all the other bits. You know the drill. Okay. Ciao.